Hello, everyone, and welcome to your weekly world session. It is February 17th, 2026, and we're going to do some brain work, dizziness, whether it's caused by blood pressure, brain, fascial constriction, toxicity. We're going to get through some of that. Mm. So it's a little bit selfish on my part. My mom is experiencing a lot of dizziness. There were two categories I actually wanted to work with today, which is also practitioners and the drainage that goes along. And I think we need to check into this every so often, is that a lot of practitioners get drained of energy when we're doing this energy work. So everyone's got a different way of experiencing it. For me, it's I'm go, 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 go. And then all of a sudden I crash so much that there is nothing. I can't even lift my arms or can't even move my body. And I get rest, 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 and still it's precarious. So we're going to work with that as well. So those of you who aren't practitioners, you could think of it as maybe excessive empathy, as Gadsad likes to call it, suicidal empathy. I'm not using it as a political terminology. I'm using it as having that excessive empathy that takes in and personalizes events, situations, and people that actually drain out the system. So it's the same but different, okay? So let's start with some of the structure of the way the cranium sits on the spine and how the entire spine works. It feels like these two things are really interconnected because if I'm going to walk in public and as an empath, which most people are going to feel someone else's feelings, you're going to do that. And that's all it is. You feel other people's feelings. The secondary factor is feeling other people's feelings, and then you do something like think you're reading their mind. You do something like think it has something to do with you. You do something like you try to change it, which I am so guilty of, right? If somebody's having a problem, I have an automatic tendency to experience my body mind going into treatment for that person. So, those of you who do Mindscape, I don't know if you do this, but I have a very bad habit of going into Mindscape and not counting myself out. I have a very bad habit of doing that. I spend the whole day in Mindscape, then by the end of the day, I'm so tired, I don't count myself out. So today we're going to just instantiate that those of you who are practitioners go into Mindscape, you got to count yourself out. So we're just going to balance that into the entire nervous system. Already I feel a shift that my fascia, the way everything's sitting, is already getting flexible. So when when we start to interpret empathy rather than, the simplest way to look at empathy is you're standing in line, somebody comes up, and all of a sudden you feel really sad. Okay, so that's feeling someone else's feelings. But the minute you step away, the sadness goes away. Okay, that's the best way to explain it. Once your mind starts interfering, well, you've made a mess out of it all, right? This is where we go into excess. So, spiritually speaking, in this energy world, this is the way we look at it. Psychologically, I'm not going to go into that definition. Just feeling someone else's feelings. Sympathy, very different. Sometimes empathy is called sympathy by people. Sympathy is when you relate to what someone's doing, right? Empathy, obviously, I could be laughing, somebody walks up and I'm like, and then they walk away and I'm like, so I'm back into my mood. That is empathy. Sympathy is oh no, why do you feel sad? I've had that bad situation. So you're sympathizing with what they're feeling. You start to find that you have similar feelings and thoughts as they do. You know, yeah, often misinterpreted. So we just need that to be separated. It feels like this is really strongly related to how the left and right, Ida Pingala channels, left and right brain, left and right side of the body. And remember, when we say left and right side of the body, we just kind of feel a bulk sensation, but they're very different. Like the right side has three lobes in the lungs, the left side only has two. Our heart leans more to the left. And breathe. Then we also have an ileocecal valve over on the right, whereas we don't have that on the left. Yeah. We have spleen on one side, liver on the other. Very, very big differences that need to organize and work together. And the fascia is the structure holding it all together. So if you take a little piece of fascia and twist it, just like a sheet, if we took if you think of a big sheet, I'll use a little tissue here. So if I pinch this and turn it, you start to experience that everywhere. You unravel it, well, then it unravels everywhere. I hope you got to see that, but try it with a sheet. So that's the same as our fascia. If one area gets pulled. So, everyone's got a different one. My right side of my body seems to be more flexible. My left side is really tight. Look at even my arm. It only goes up here, whereas I can bring this one, and this one's like, oh God, I'm gonna have to push it up, and boy, does it hurt to do that. So sorry about that. So what we want to do is just allow a really gentle unraveling. Now, this is also very involved in the brain. So, what do I mean by that? Well, your belief systems can be, well, they're obviously part of the nervous system, they're the mind. The mind is everywhere, interrelates with everything. So, everything is consciousness. But if we look at our systems of belief, those systems um, can constrict the body. Okay, so the brain is there. You've got the brain communicating to the entire body. And I'm always looking for this. Why would my left side be doing this, that, and the other thing? Why? What's going on in this brain? What belief system is held there? Now remember, you don't always have control over what you believe. You don't even know most of what you believed. You can believe things from, generations past. You can believe things that are in your system. Someone might even tell you, oh, I found this in your body mind. You believe that being a victim is going to get you ahead in life. And you go, me? I'm so responsible. I take care of myself. What victim? No. But in some way, it's pulling at the fascia. It's not that you're going to walk around in your conscious mind saying that. Of course not. But it would be living somewhere inside you. How do we know it? Well, usually what you see out in the world and it triggers you is a good way to find that the equal and opposite exists somewhere in you. When you're like, let's say you're walking down the street and you see a leaf fall from a tree. And you just go, okay, it's a leaf falling from a tree. Then somebody else walks by, sees a leaf falling from the tree and goes, oh my God, fall is coming. We're slowly dying again. And they go into this total tirade, right? So there are things, so death would be something that triggers them. Now you don't know what the internal belief is, but let's say there could be an intense fear to really enjoy life, even though things are dying. That could be possible. It's a little hard to determine, but you can look out and say, like, let's say you see something and you say, wow, that's really stupid. It could be the resistance within you to see what is stupid within yourself. So that's just one way of looking at things and being a little bit gentler with yourself and having a little, kind of chat with yourself to see what's going on and see what's contracting things, what gets contracted in the body mind. Now, remember, not everything is going to be belief system. That's why we're doing this, because you can have an injury. You can have something you've inherited. You could have stressors that occurred in your life that set off your epigenetic histone, methyl markers, getting all activated, turning some on, disrupting some of them so they malfunction. It could be wrong diet, right? People are having all kinds of different ways of eating that are very far away from what original people ate. Original people just killed animals and ate it. I don't think I could do it, but that's what they did, and they ate raw things. Sometimes I imagine that, what if, we had a dystopia and we had to go kill an animal and then eat the fat and the liver. I was like, oh, hopefully I'll be hungry enough to do it. But it's like, no, I can't. I can't. So a lot of people go through that. And I know that that belief system and whatever, there's a disgust area in the brain that causes that could be a big problem for me because I do have digestive issues. I do have digestive problems. I was vegetarian most of my life, which I realized was based in a lot of belief systems I was born with. I never believed it was you shouldn't eat meat. I just didn't eat meat. So, we have to look and see, well, maybe I need to push myself in directions that would better feed the system, better take care of the system and learn how to do it, whatever works best for your body mind. Not selfish, not haphazard, right? And, there are a lot of beliefs too about killing animals. And, I always thought it was always so weird. I used to be a furrier and, but a vegetarian. I wouldn't eat meat. And then people would get mad at me because I was a furrier, but they were wearing leather shoes. And I was like, what are you doing? And they would be eating a steak. And I go, how do you live with your own paradoxes? That's a good way of figuring out that that's how we live. We will be so contradictory in our minds. That goes back to Gurdjieff, right? Gurdjieff often says we can go into a personality, live in that personality even for a year, and then all of a sudden come out and have completely differing views, right? And I feel like that all the time, like as though I've been going through different personalities and trying to amalgamate them so finally that I could be the one who's actually steering myself, which I still think is a problem, but it gets better and better. Not like when I was young, where it felt like all these multiple personalities were steering me. Not a disorder, but the idea of, well, I'm acting like this now, and I'm acting like that. So it's nice if we get those things out of the way. So hopefully when you heard all of that, which it's doing for me, it's triggering some memories and it's actually pinging areas of the brain. So one of the areas I went to is disgust center. The other area I went to is where fear resides in the brain, and we get a lot of connections there so that the amygdala, which is our fight flight response in the brain, the most direct. It's the only time our sensory information bypasses the thalamus in the brain is when it's urgent and it goes straight to the thalamus. So we jump out of the way of danger. But as living in cities and having more and more stressors, what happens is we start to experience that kind of fight flight. And it becomes the answer to everything, hence anxiety. So, anxiety, panic, even food can do it. I don't know if anyone's noticed. Like, I don't eat sugar, but once in a while, you go out to dinner and you'll have a dessert. Well, you better believe all night long I'm sweating and I get paranoid. I actually get paranoid. So that just sugar doesn't work for me. And the other day, my partner was having dessert and he gave me a little bite and it touched my tongue and I was completely repulsed by the sugar and I was so happy. I was so happy to be repulsed by it. And I went, okay, this is great. No sugar for me. So I'm trying to even, this is one of the belief systems I don't mind brainwashing myself with is sugar is terrible. It disgusts me. It revolts me. So, and trying to create that. So remember, some of the belief systems we have, you might be wanting. I would love sugar to disgust me, so I'll never eat it. Because once in a while, you like that really good, nice piece of chocolate. So yeah, next one will have to be chocolate, but chocolate without sugar is fine. So it's like, okay, sugar. So I'm just pointing out also that not all our belief systems aren't necessarily bad, and they're not necessarily good. It's only when they're really solid, uh, or rigid, and they pull us in one direction. So you could see me pulling this energy. This also pulls the fascia. And remember, we're working with dizziness here. We're working with lightheadedness. So if it's blood pressure, we'll just bring in a balancing of the potassium sodium pump. So I think we can go in either direction. You can get dizzy if you've got high blood pressure. And then there's also low blood pressure. That's my concern. It goes very low, and I'm, walking around like really dizzy. So I always keep a little bit of salt next to me so I could, increase it. So that potassium sodium pump is really important. Then the other one is fascia. The other one is all of the consciousness within the organs, and that's going to be triggered by some of the things I've said. If I didn't trigger anything for you, you're not resisting anything. Sometimes people listen and they go, yeah, yeah, yeah. So watch where you went, yeah, yeah, yeah. There might be something rigid. And if you're going, I don't know what the heck she's talking about, this is really stupid, that's good too. Uh-oh, something's pulling at me now. So that's really great too. I always use, whatever treatments I'm receiving, and those different responses, what makes you emotional, angry, etc. So you want to get those kind of moving. So we'll use a little bit of the SCAR technique from Body Talk, and there's a Healy device that does all these different scar systems. So I'm gonna relate to that now, so we could work the scar system in the body. It can be on your skin, within your body. It can be all kinds of different things going on, including the excessive thought processes within the brain. Right? Sometimes we don't shift how we think. Sometimes we're too lazy to shift our vocabulary. I don't know if you find that really hard. Um, I've tried, I've been trying not to say right, right? So some people go like a lot, which is just not nice, right? There you go. I did the right again, and I try to not say right because it became a habit, and also the person will hear that and think I'm saying it is right versus right. I'm sort of questioning, is that right? Right? But I'll just abbreviate it to right, which is very, feminine quality is to, I've noticed with myself and most women, we will abbreviate things, even statements, questions, generalizations. And that's not exactly what we mean, but we expect the other person to interpret it as we mean it. So that's an interesting thing as well. So it's just learning um, not to get lazy about what we're talking about or what you're talking about what anyone's talking about, not to get lazy, and allow the fascia to unravel with all the work that we're doing, and remembering that slowing down, being in the moment, being in the present is also going to help everything move. Then we'll do an ion ventricle discharge, which I feel is like the most important right now. And yeah, I can already feel it relieving. This is all the stuff that, like I see it as sparks coming off the brain. So we want those excess ions in the brain to go into the ventricles, and also bring in that AUM sound, ohm, which is the way those ventricles, if you place them in a certain position, you'll see the Sanskrit ohm position. And that I love vibrating with. I just love feeling that vibration, and how if I'm really in tune, the vibration will go straight down to the 64 tetrahedron cells into CV1, and then really activate and animate the root chakra to be connected to the earth, then bounce right up so that I get the masculine connection to the sun, Father Sky, and having both those elements hold me in space, not just the idea that gravity is pulling me down. Why not? Well, there's one thing that we have gravity keeping us on the planet, but it presumes in our belief systems that we're compressing. So we often talk about not always, the spine compressing with gravity, our knees, everything is bouncing up against. When we want tensegrity, the way to have tensegrity is Mother Earth, Father Sky, so that we have the pulling away from the joint, especially if you have joint pain, especially if you have back pain, especially if you have this distortion I'm talking about in my body where the fascia feels like it's just all contracting on one side rather than having this breathing and flexibility. So if we get the breathing and flexibility of the ventricles, so they're able to dump, we get the breathing and flexibility of Father Sky to Mother Earth, seventh chakra to first chakra, feet to, I'm going to use head, but it's really mind, which is everywhere. Allow that grounding as well as seeing the bird's eye view, so that we're holding both in honor, I would say, because if you're in a female body, more than you're supposed to be having this is a statement. Whether I can validate it or not is not so, but it just um, when you hear something that feels true, somehow it's true. And that's the 51% feminine in a female and 49% masculine. Not a lot. It's actually the one validation we could use is psychology. And the big four in personality tests is that women and men are way more similar than they are different. But there's this small bit where we're different. So, oh yeah, that really makes a lot of sense that it would only be this 1%, right? And then the masculine would be 51% and the feminine 49. And even within those percentages, you're going to get variations. Of course, a lot of us mistake some of the qualities that people use for feminine masculine when they're not. They're just human, right? So it's a very small bit of feminine and masculine qualities um, that are available to obviously both sexes. But the where we're using them in any part, because I can be different in one moment to another. I guess that's where a lot of people have come to non-binary rather than it's just natural in the world. It's just very, very natural for us to be shifting and changing. But a lot of people are not comfortable with that. Why? Because people want an identity. Why? Well, if I have one identity, that's who I am, and I keep that identity and I defend it like crazy. That is what I am totally trying to dissolve so that eventually one day, maybe in 100 lifetimes from now, I'll be able to be fully self-realized, and that full self-realization feels like it would be totally flexible. You still come in with your genetics. So I'm looking towards that as the healing of my body and mind as well. So there we go. I actually already feel a lot better, though I do feel body pain. So I'm going to bring in an endorphin release for pain in the body and anywhere where there's scar tissue or injuries that come up. So we're constantly injuring ourselves. You could do something really bad like hammer your hand or fall down. That's going to be a bigger injury. But there are other injuries you're doing all the time, like overextending something, or when you go walking, the body is, or you're exercising, your body is ripping muscle, and those injuries need to be done as well, taken care of as well. So let's go from the most extreme, so even to bones. Like I said, my mom had a bad time. She fell down and broke two ribs, so she's really struggling with that. So we want to go from, that's why I said this is kind of selfish. So we're going to go from that energy all the way to minor things like those of you who are working out consistently and you can feel, oh, I got a little pain over here, I got a little pain over there, trying to fix this. So we'll go from all those systems to really deep knitting, like bruising, tearing, breaking, all of that kind of stuff. And then bring it to when you have a severe accident, you fall down, you break something, it really disrupts the system. But when you have minor things, remember that image I gave you of the fascia, something minor like, one little scar over here, over there in your muscles, in your fascia, some digestive issue, some your liver got a little bit fatty and now it's getting little things in it and it has to heal. Sure, all those little things are going to be hugely disruptive. Sometimes it's even the little ones that are more disruptive than the big ones. You can have the big one, you heal it, and then these little ones are even worse. So we're going to work through all of that. So scar system, this is the brain. So I already mentioned we're working with the brain so that it can release some of the beliefs at the same time as healing, so you get better and better healing and a better way of viewing your world and enjoying yourself and moving through space. So that was interesting. Enjoying yourself just came up. I have to say, I'm not enjoying myself today. And, since I got up, it's just not been enjoyable. It's been sort of a struggle to, stand upright, remain upright. Now that I'm sitting and talking, this is great. But obviously, in energy work, the minute I enter it, I'm not the same human. I'm just not the same human as I was 5 minutes ago. And I know the minute we stop and I'm going to get up, it's going to be like, oh, so I'm working with that as well, that we can be able to not be so drained, even though it feels really good and it looks really good. Sometimes I was even thinking today, can't I just do the session the way I feel? And it's not coming off that way. I'm seeing myself. I say, it's like, that's not how I was a few minutes ago. So it's pretty amazing what everything does to influence the body mind and how much we are not in control of things. I even wanted it to be, glum and, so all of us could relate. But now it's like, yeah, I'm a little high energy. There's also the idea of yes, there's all of that energy comes through when you step in the role of practitioner, but I also feel like being online and putting yourself out there, which is another thing I thought about a lot. But how many people could be looking and saying bad things about you or me, or how many people could be criticizing, picking at things, you know some people are able to pick at themselves better than anybody could pick at them. But there is this whole thing where, there are people criticizing, and that's like a spell. So for practitioners and those of you or anybody goes online, I'd like to do a little protection there as well, just to bring that in. And there we go. All right, I think we did all of it. And I don't know if you're up for it, but Jordan Peterson, one of the things that his daughter mentions a lot is that a lot of the reasons he's ill is because of black magic and evil and people trying to psychically attack him. So I'm just going to say a little prayer to protect Jordan Peterson and keep him in God's thoughts and protect him from the evils of the world as well as the rest of us. So thank you, everyone, and have a great week. And those of you coming on to Fairy Tales, we'll see you. We're doing Iron John in case I didn't tell you about it. So maybe you'll want to ask some questions. I'm very excited to do Iron John. So see you all on Fairy Tales in 30 minutes. Bye, everybody. Have a good one. Oh, it didn't.